So can free software actually replace something that's quite established? Well, Meld Studio is aiming to try and replace OBS with its new beta version of that software. Now, I'm not an OBS user, but I thought I'd try and use it and see if it would do the same as I currently use with Ecamm Live from a workflow perspective, building my live streams, doing my recordings and so on. So I'm going to try and see what it's like with regards to building up some scenes and seeing if it could actually replace some paid for software. So let's get on with it. You can download Meld Studio from the description, the link below. Now it is in beta, as I mentioned, so there will be a few quirks and things like that when we are running it, but there is a Discord channel as well, which provides lots of support. And I had a look through it today, and what's interesting is there are a ton of questions and comments around feature requests for the product. So it's a really interesting product. People are using it, but they do want to get some more bells and whistles added, as you would do in the OBS world. Now, OBS, as you know, has been around forever, and OBS is an open platform, and there's been lots of plugins and widgets and workflows built for OBS. The idea behind Meld Studio, from what I can see, is they're trying to incorporate a lot of the features and functionality that you get with OBS plugins directly in the software itself. So that's an interesting take. Hopefully they'll add more of the things that the people are asking for in the Discord channel. But for now, let's take a quick look at the interface and the preferences. So let's take a look at Meld Studio. Here it is. The interface is pretty clean and straightforward. You've got layers and scenes to the left. On the bottom, you've got your audio mixer, so anything that you add from an audio perspective will be shown here. On the right-hand side is the inspector, so anything that you add within the layers, all your parameters and settings are going to be shown here. And then the main canvas is the main window in the middle. Let's go to the preferences, Meld Studio preferences. In general, first of all, you will get the streaming output. So these are the destinations where you're going to be sending your live stream to. You can multi-stream, but currently you only have 3 to choose from: Twitch, YouTube, and a custom RTMP feed. I'm sure they'll be adding more in the future. Then the encoder settings are basically what the streaming size and frame rate is going to be to your outputs. You can see that you've got the canvas setting, which is the resolution of where you're going to be adding all your elements. That's the main screen or canvas. By default, it's 1080p. I typically stream at 1440p, but there's also tall vertical formats as well, both in 4K and 720. Let's set it to 1440p. Now the frame rates are interesting. You get a choice only of 60 or 30 frames per second. And typically I stream at 24, but YouTube will change that anyway to 30 frames per second because that's basically what YouTube does. So I'll set it to 30 frames in this case. I'm not going to change anything with the audio bitrate, but what's interesting is the video bitrate can be changed. I'm going to set this to 4 because I don't have a great internet connection. But this is great because you can configure this similar to what you see in OBS. The audio bitrate, as I said, I'll leave here. And then the hardware encoder, I'm going to just leave that as enabled. You can tweak this as well from a quality preset perspective, depending on what encoder you have, what GPU you have in your machine. I'm just going to leave this on, and the rest I'm just going to leave at default. You've got which destination you want to send the recording to. You've got a list of plugins here. When more plugins become available, they'll appear here. Updates, advanced. You can send this to a HTTP stream if you want. From an audio perspective, you only have one setting at the moment, which is the output device. So if you're listening to the gameplay, streaming music, sound effects, and things like that, this is where the output is going to be sent to. Smart guides are just the snapping of the area within the canvas. So when you've brought some elements, it'll help you center, break it up into thirds and things like that. The interesting one is the transitions. So obviously with OBS, the live motion, magic move, that type of transition is very, very popular. Ecamm Live also has that as well now in the beta version, but they've included it here as default. So the default transition is move. You've got cut, fade, morph to choose from. And then the ease in, ease out curve, not easy to say, is also listed here. You've got a ton of choices. I'm just going to leave it as in, out, cubic for now, but you can play around with those to give you different types of effects. The duration by default is set to 1 second, and it's pretty cool because you can set this to whatever you want. You can make the transition faster or slower. I think for me 700 is fine. I'm going to leave it at that. And then you've got this layer rendering mode, which I'm not 100% sure what that does, but I'm just going to leave it at the default. There's also hotkeys available to toggle the various settings. And one thing I'd like to mention is the fact that you can also get a plugin from the Elgato Marketplace, so you can configure this to work with Stream Deck. It's limited at the moment in terms of the actions and functionality, but at least they've got availability there for you to switch scenes and go through stuff like that. All right, let's add our first elements and create our first scene. Scenes and layers are pretty straightforward. Scenes are the various scenes within your production, so as you switch between them, they will just move and transition based on how you've set that up. And then layers are the actual elements, graphics, cameras, overlays, screen shares that you add to your scene. So let's create our first scene by clicking on the plus button here. Give it a name. Let's call it, double click and call it main cam. And then you've got a choice of various layers that you can add to a scene. If you hit the plus button here, you'll see that we've got video devices, which are your cameras, display capture, which could be an application, screen share, things like that. I'd like to see how it works with multiple monitors. Media is audio and video. Images, you've got a browser function. This is limited. I'll talk a bit about that in a second. The duplicator, which means that you can create a scene, duplicate that, and then add that in another scene. So you can have a scene within a scene. Text overlays, some markdown, some shapes in the rectangle, and then some basic widgets. So there isn't a ton, but there's enough to get you going. And really, I think this is aimed at sort of beginner streamers. Because it's free, it's really accessible for everybody, and there's no reason why you can't play around with that and see how it works for you. So let's add a video device. I'm using Ecamm to record this at the moment, so I'm just going to use Ecamm Live's virtual camera. And therefore, I've just added an overlay. You can see by default, it's 1920 by 1080. And I'm just going to pinch here and drag this all the way over to fill the entire canvas. And you can see when I do that, you get the little crosshairs on the screen, which are helping you snap and position these overlays. As I mentioned before, on the right-hand side is the inspector. So anytime you add something into your scene from a layers perspective, you're going to get a number of different parameters that you can change in here. I can change the opacity, I can transform, I can change the width and height, things like that. And then you can also set the fill mode. So if you've got a camera that isn't the same aspect ratio, you can stretch and fill and do whatever you want to that. I've just pinched and zoomed mine, it doesn't really matter. One annoying thing is that I can't see what the resolution is set to down here now. I have to actually go and zoom out a little bit so I can see that it's set to 2560 by 1440. A little bit of a pain. It would be nice if there was a way to be able to see this. I think that's a little UI bug, but if I squeeze it up and down by moving this, it doesn't really make any difference. So that's a little bit of a quirk. For every element that you add into your scene, you do have the option to add presets and effects. Presets are pre-canned presets for the look and feel of the particular element that you've added. You can add a 3D effect there from perspective. You can transform and change it here a little bit, but you can't do too much with it. If you hit the none button, that'll just reset and get rid of that. There's also some other weird effects that you can add. You go crazy and play with that. The other tab is effects, where you can now add green screen, chroma keying and things like that. You just click on the effects tab here and then click on plus, and then you have a multitude of various things that you can add. We'll just add a transform or a drop shadow or things like that a little bit later, but you get the idea. So I'm also now going to just add a quick text overlay. So hit the plus button, add text. Now what's interesting is you can drag this text around, but I haven't found a way of how to sort of resize it without actually changing the font size, which is a bit annoying. I'm also double clicking on here and thinking that I can double click into the text box and then start typing, but I can't seem to do that. So instead, you have to go over here to the inspector and type in what you want. So I'm just going to add my name. Boom, boom, boom. I'm going to change the font to Bebas, and then I'm just going to increase the font size a little bit. Once you're happy with the font size, hit done here. And now you can place the text wherever you want. All right, so far so good, very simple. Let's just put that there. Two things you can't do. One is you can't pinch and zoom, as I've mentioned, which is a little bit annoying for the text overlay. And the other thing you can't do is add a transition to the text. So you can't make the text slide in from the top or bottom, things like that. You can do that out of the box with Ecamm Live. And I'm sure with OBS, you can have a third-party plugin to do things like that, but you can't do anything like that at the moment. So again, it is in beta and there's going to be some basic functionality with this, but hopefully they'll add a few things. From an audio perspective, you can see that we've got the audio slider down here. I'm going to select my device, which is my Broadcaster Pro Chat. And now you can see I've added the audio and now I'm getting the audio levels here. It's quite cool that you've got little individual slider, and every time you add an audio component to a scene, it will appear here. There's a few quirks with that, and I'll talk about that in a second. You can mute the audio from this perspective. Q means that you can send the audio out to your monitor. So if you remember in preferences where we set the output device, that's where this would be sent to. And then there's some edit functions where you can select a mono track only, pan it left and right, and then you've got some delay elements here where you can just basically do a delay offset if your audio isn't syncing up correctly with your video. So let's create a second scene. Hit the plus button. We'll just create a little background with this one. So I'll just do, let's do BG scene. Doesn't really matter what you call it. Now I'm going to actually click and drag a background into this. So you can see there, insert background. What's a bit annoying is it snaps it down here to the bottom right. And I was hoping that it would just sort of pop it all the way in to the center, or at least fill. So if I change the fit mode to fill, I would have expected it to stretch to the entire image, but it doesn't. I mean the canvas, sorry. So the canvas, I don't know why it doesn't do that, but that's just a bit annoying. So again, I'm just gonna have to stretch that out. And that's my background now. Let me just add a camera. Go back to Ecamm Live Virtual Cam. Now you'll notice up here that there are a number of different controls for your camera. The first one is the crop. Clicking on that, you can crop in, oops, left and right, for example, and then hit done. And that's my sort of crop. You can also have this as a square with some rounded corners if you want. You can make a circle, a tall image, and we'll just keep it at tall for now. You can also stretch that to make it sort of full screen. You'll notice that there are some corner radius added here automatically. I'm just gonna move that to there. In fact, I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller, and I'm just gonna put a glow around this as adding one of the effects. So let's go to the effects tab, hit the plus button. Let's do glow styles here. Click on that. And then you've got some options. There's always some controls to the left of every effect. So you click on that and you'll see that we've got outer glow, center glow, inner glow, things like that. You can change the size of the glow, choke, and opacity. So this is really giving you like a border around your element, and I'll just change the rounded corners for that. You can also add a drop shadow, so let's quickly add a drop shadow to this as well. Click on that, drop shadow, and let's make the softness like that, make the distance a bit bigger. You can just see the shadow here. And then obviously you can change the angle. So just pretty standard stuff, but again, it's all built in, so you don't have to get a plugin to do any of this work for you. We're now going to add a video, and I'll show you what happens when you do that. You don't have to convert the video to a WebM. You can actually drop an MP4 or anything in there, so I'm just going to click and drag. This is a vertical video, I'm going to pop it in. And you'll see straight away that we get an automatic media source mixer or an audio track added as soon as we've added the video, which is quite neat. So again, you can pinch and zoom this, and we're just going to pop that there. So you get an audio track associated with the video that you've just added, and you can change, obviously, the levels here. I'm just going to unmute. I'll just keep that muted for now. But you get the idea. Now, what's interesting is I'm now going to go back to the first scene that I created. One, you'll see the transition kick into life. So that nice sort of magic move, live motion, move, transition, whatever you want to call it, shift, whatever you like. And you'll see that the audio tracks are still here. So this audio mixer down at the bottom is cumulative when you add these various sources to your scenes. So you don't have an audio mixer per scene. It's like global audio control. You'll notice that there's no media playing here because I'm on a scene with the video that isn't there. But as soon as I go to my background scene, you'll see that the audio kicks in. You can see it's playing, but obviously it's on mute. So just be aware that this audio mixer is a global audio mixer and it's not on a per scene basis. So anything that you add is going to be shown here at the bottom, just to give you a quick idea about that. So now let's add a screen share and a browser widget later on. First, let's do screen share. So let's go over here and just create a new scene and we'll call it screen share. Like that. And we'll just add my window that's down here, which is a monitor. So let's go to layers, display capture, and then let's pick the monitor, which is this one here. Again, the fill and stretch doesn't work, so it defaults to 1920 by 1080. I'm just going to pinch and zoom and drag that in. So I'm just sharing my monitor here. It's just got a browser open, which is YouTube. And now you could actually add audio capture directly from this. But let's first just add a camera to do like a simple screen share thing. Let's select my virtual camera again, make it a circle, drag that out there, put it here. If I play a video here, the volume is up. So what you could do now in this particular scene, there's an option to add an audio track for the source. So let's just click on this. The audio is being captured in whatever's being played within that monitor, which is great. In this case, it's just a YouTube video, but any browser or any music that's playing, you could have like a Spotify playlist running in the background, providing it's copyright free, of course, and things like that. So let's just pause this video and go back to the main scene. So that's a quick and easy way of adding a overlay as a screen share. But now let's see what we can get out of the browser. Now, I believe that the browser isn't a fully featured browser in any way, and I don't think you can do any interaction when you share something with the browser. So let's just create a new scene, and I'll show you what I mean. So let's do browser. And in this, let's just add another camera real quick, video device. And let's add a circle down at the bottom. Now I'm going to add a web widget or a browser widget. So click on this and we hit browser. It defaults to again to 19 with a nice little cat, nice 8-bit cat there, 1280 by 720. And you can see here that it's just got a standard URL. So let's go to YouTube. Let's do that then real quick. So here's the problem. When you create a web browser widget, this is really only designed for like notifications. So stream elements, Uno, things like that, because there is no interaction. I can't click on this widget. I have no means of scrolling, clicking, entering text, doing anything like that. So I can't interact with this web browser. I looked on the forums and they said they may be considering adding that in the future, but right now you can't do that. So what is this useful for? So, which brings me on to another thing. There's no embedded chat in this application right now. So the fact that you can stream to Twitch and YouTube at the same time and an RTMP stream, there's no way of augmenting that chat directly in the program itself. There's no chat window, there's no way to bring the chat in. It doesn't integrate with things like Restream or anything like that. So the only way to bring chat in to this program at the moment is use a third-party tool like Social Stream Ninja, for example. So using Social Stream Ninja, you can easily add your chat overlays, as I've just demonstrated here using this browser widget, but that's it. It's almost like a read-only widget. You can't actually do anything else with it. So that's one sort of other issue that you can't do. So no chat, no interaction with the web browser. And also there's no automation. So OBS has a lot of automation, countdown timers, things like that. None of those things are built in. Again, you'd have to either do them in Canva, do something with a third party and stuff like that. So whilst this program is good in its first iteration, there is a ton of things missing, especially for me anyway, to be able to use it effectively in my day-to-day workflow. So as a simple streaming software with limited functionality, but at least has some good audio mixing components in it and getting the basic overlays and things added, it's pretty good. So let's maybe just take a look at one other thing or a couple of other things that we can add. Realistically, there's not much else in terms of the layers that I find useful that I would use in my day-to-day. Now for others, obviously, it may be very useful. So let's go and look at these combo widgets. So the combo widget allows you to add things like Twitch cheer, subs, YouTube super chat and things like that. It's like a notification. How well this compares to things like Streamlabs, the elements that you can get, Uno, all these overlays that you can make and create yourself. I don't see the point of these. If you do a preview event, it shows you like an interaction. Now, obviously, if you're getting notifications coming in via YouTube or Twitch, then it's automatic. You don't have to add anything to it, but it's, again, pretty basic. The other thing you can add is something called a spotlight. So you can preview Twitch cheer event, YouTube sub event, super chat, and things like that. So you can, bring this in. This uses like default text. So again, it's just like a little notification available built in. So you don't have to go out and get any third-party widgets. But again, you guys can tell me how useful this is because I don't use these. So how they compare with others, I'm not 100% sure. So there's a few things that are still missing from here. As I mentioned, there's no countdown timers. The transitions are global. You can't do things on a per scene basis. You can't animate the text or bring it in as an overlay. There's no, or an animated overlay, should I say. So there's lots of things that are missing that I use daily in my production and live streams. But I think as a first pass, it's okay. I mean, in terms of streaming, you can stream directly to YouTube and Twitch from this. But obviously there are limitations. I will quickly show you the Stream Deck elements that you can add to this, and we'll just go on to the Stream Deck software and quickly show you that. As I mentioned, there is a Stream Deck plugin for this, so let's go to the Elgato Marketplace and type in Meld. And you'll see that there is a plugin available, so click on that. Let's open up in Stream Deck. Once you've downloaded the Meld plugin from the Elgato Marketplace, you've got it listed here in your Stream Deck. We've got a few things that you can do. Obviously, the Go Live button is the important one, of course, and you can give it a title. Then we've got the show scenes. So all of the scenes that we've created, as you saw, browser, screen share, blah, 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 main cam, you can just add that to these various buttons. You've got a screenshot as well. So you take a screenshot of the entire production and various other things like muting individual audio tracks. So you can say that there's the sort of media source, track 1, that was the screen share that we had, and you can mute, unmute, and toggle. So they've got some functionality straight away in the Stream Deck, which is a must, especially for doing live streams. You can't launch any software and then not have any Stream Deck elements or Stream Deck plugins available, because that's really an inhibitor. Obviously, there are keyboard shortcuts and things that you can use, but you need to use the Stream Deck when it comes to doing live streaming. So let me know in the comments if you're trying this software out. I'll be interested to hear from you. It's always good that companies release the software first as a beta version, let the community play with it, give feedback, and provide invaluable insights on what the community actually wants from the software. It's not going to replace anything that I have right now in my production. I think in the future, this could be some decent software, and right now it's free. So why not use it, try it? You could use it for some basic workflows already out of the box. It's not terrible by any means, and it does a lot of the things in terms of camera overlays and things like that. It doesn't have the flexibility of OBS because it's had years and years of plugins and development. It's never going to replace Ecamm Live for me because I'm just too ingrained in the Ecamm workflow and the fact that Ecamm makes it very easy for me to create my live streams and recordings. At the moment, there's no other alternative for me. But who knows, in the future, this software could get much, much better, and then time to revisit and see what it can do for you. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.